Speaking of race and race baiting and racism, there was an attempt at a follow-up white nationalist alt-right rally yesterday in Washington, D.C. You might remember a year ago in Charlottesville, Virginia, there was a horrible, horrible white supremacist, white separatist alt-right rally. It led to the death of Heather Heyer. I always say that incorrectly.
It's Heyer?
It is Heyer. I just never remember what it is. The current president of the United States said that there were very fine people on both sides of that white nationalist, white supremacist alt-right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia a year ago. We're now at the 1-year anniversary. And of course, this is exactly the type of event we would remember with a moment of silence, not another white nationalist rally, but there were white nationalists who wanted another rally. So they were going to do it this weekend. They were going to do it Sunday. And in terms of turnout, it failed hilariously and miserably. Apparently, somewhere between a couple dozen and 50 actual alt-right white nationalist supporters showed up. There were way more counter-protesters and police officers and even just media people covering it, way outnumbering the actual white nationalist alt-rightists. And I want to sort of make the point that just because there was low turnout at this event doesn't mean that there's no longer white supremacy that has been reinvigorated by the presidency of Donald Trump. It doesn't mean that there's no longer horrible, vile people in this country. They didn't show up to the rally, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. And of course, we know they exist, and we know that they've been emboldened by the presidency of Donald Trump. We actually had someone on the ground there, Joshua Turner, who you might remember because he's a former neo-Nazi who I've interviewed on the show. He's part of an organization called Saved by Reason, and he emailed me and he said, quote, about 50 Unite the Right guys came, and there were over 10,000 counter-protesters. The police had them separated, and everything went down peacefully. I filmed with Newsy the entire time, got to talk to some neo-Nazis one-on-one. They were happy the protest turned out peacefully, but they were basically drowned out from the counter-protesters and left early the second it started to drizzle. So it rained on their parade, literally. And that was about it. So it was a failure. It was a failure in terms of being this sort of public show of support for alt-rightism or white nationalism or whatever. I find the most interesting thing about this entire 1-year anniversary rally to be how media was unsure about if and how they should cover it. Of course, right-wing media mostly provided cover for the fact that this was a white supremacist rally. So a couple of examples of that. Least Power from Media Matters had some funny lower third screenshots from Fox and Friends where they forgot to mention that it was a white nationalist rally. One lower third during Fox and Friends said, Antifa demands an end to America. They had another headline, Antifa protesters chant no borders in D.C. What about the fact that it was white nationalists commemorating Charlottesville where a woman died? Yeah, apparently they couldn't be expected to do that. Okay, so that was one thing, and we sort of expected that coverage from right-wing media. But the more interesting thing is that there is a debate about should we deplatform white nationalists versus should we challenge them on their ideas and interview them. This is a debate we've dealt with a lot because of my interviews with all kinds of extremists, the Westboro Baptist Church, white nationalist Richard Spencer, homophobes, racists, so on and so forth. And the debate that is had is usually the wrong debate. The debate is usually, David, these people should not be interviewed, period, or merely interviewing them exposes their bad ideas. I believe that the responsible approach is what Stephen Bonnell II, also known to some of you as Destiny in the online gaming world, calls responsible platforming, which means if you interview the racists or the extremists or whoever, you have to understand it's not always obvious to the audience that their ideas are bad, racist, discriminatory ideas. They want to do the interview because they want any platform to be used to get these ideas out there, and maybe someone will be convinced by their ideas. So simply saying to them, tell me why you're a racist, tell me why Jews are the problem in all of the world, whatever, and having them tell you why, that doesn't expose them. That's not responsible platforming. Responsible platforming means you're prepared to challenge their ideas, not in a screaming and yelling way. We don't yell and scream on this program, but with thoughtful, well-crafted questions where you've researched what their likely responses are going to be so that you can interrupt their use of your platform for propaganda purposes. That's what I try to do. I don't think I always succeed, Pat, at least not as well as I want to, but there's this middle ground between they should be completely deplatformed and we pretend their ideas don't exist. That doesn't work because that actually can provide cover for their ideas to catalyze and to metastasize. The other side is just interviewing them is bad for them because it exposes their bad ideas. Responsible platforming is the path forward.
Yeah, man, I think in most corporate outlets, the reporters will either try to go for the gotcha question to catch them in like some soundbite that's not going to play out well for them.
Sure.
Or they don't know which questions to ask and they don't know how to push them effectively because they're not used to asking very pressing questions. Like if they're interviewing a politician, they don't want to say something that will cause them access in the future. So it's more about practice than anything else.
Yeah, they don't want to lose access.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a big priority for how corporate media handles interviews with big politicians and bigger names. And I think that that is, it's a false debate that was mostly had around this. It's not so much about whether to interview the extremists, but about how to interview them. Interviewing them in and of itself isn't what needs to be debated. How it should be done is the important conversation, and a lot of bogus discussions centered around this rally. Send me your thoughts. How do you define responsible platforming? I'm on Twitter at @dpakman, and the show is on Twitter at David Pakman Show. Today's episode of the show is made possible in part by Filter Easy. You can outsmart your chore list by signing up for Filter Easy. It's a subscription service that will make it impossible for you to forget to change your air filters because they arrive at your front door when you need to change them. As some of you know, I recently moved and I had a list of about, 100 to 150 things that had to be done. And one of them was figuring out the right schedule for filter replacements. And now that I am signed up with Filter Easy, I get the new filters on the schedule that they need to be replaced at my place. A lot of homeowners don't know how often to change their air filters or they forget, and Filter Easy makes it very, very simple. You can sign up in under 5 minutes on your computer or phone. It's extraordinarily easy, and I am now fully set up with Filter Easy, and it's a subscription for something you actually need versus lots of other things that you can sign up for. It's practical. It's really a no-brainer, which is why I sign up for it. And for listeners and viewers of The David Pakman Show, you can get your first order for free by going to filtereasy.com. If you prefer to do it by phone, you can call 855-910-EASY. That's 3279. Either way, please use the coupon code PAKMAN. That is PAKMAN, offer code PAKMAN. Sign up today at filtereasy.com to get your first order free, or call 855-910-3279. Don't forget the offer code. It's PAKMAN.